Hey guys, it's John here, and I'm sitting on the back deck in the afternoon this time, drinking my iced tea. And I got an email today that asked a very specific question, and it has to do with a contradiction in the Bible. First of all, let's talk about that. The Bible is full of contradictions, all over the place. If God is love, then why would he turn Lot's wife to salt just for looking back? This is not the act of a loving God. This is not the act of love. Also, I told the story before of the story in the Old Testament of God sending 2 bears to kill 42 children because they mocked a bald man. Is that love? No. There's a lot of contradictions in the Bible. Paul said that it is okay to beat your slave so long as he doesn't die because your slave is property. Is that love? No. There's a lot of contradictions in the Bible. And her question is this. In Matthew 6:14-15, Matthew 18:34-35, Mark 11:25, and Luke 6:37, Jesus taught that we must forgive everyone. But in Luke 17:3-4, he instructed us to confront and rebuke anyone who offends us, and to make forgiveness contingent upon their repentance. What can you tell me about that? I assume there might be an implicit assumption that in Luke that the offender will always repent, but I could imagine counterexamples, and have never heard any reconciliation of those various passages. It's a great question. And the reason it's a great question is because there is a massive contradiction there. Forgive everyone, but rebuke them if they don't agree. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to say both sides of that. But let's dive into it a little bit. If I was going to look at this from the perspective of what I know of Jeshua's teachings, the first thing he would say is when someone comes to you and is being negative or confronting you, the first thing I'm basically told to do is to recognize their fear, recognize that they're in it. So the forgiveness of them, there is no reason. It's forgiveness, F-O-R-E, for, like before. So give them love before. Despite the fact that they've said this, you've given them love before. Even they're saying this thing, you've already given them forgiveness. You've already given them love. So the idea of this is that when someone comes to you contradictory and aggressively, or does, quote unquote, does you wrong, they're doing so out of fear in some form. And when you recognize the fact that it's a fear, then you don't have to be invested or attached or reactive to what they're doing, because of the fact that in itself would be a fear-based response. So you don't want to have the fear-based response. Now the second part about rebuking, instructed us to confront and rebuke anyone who offends us. Confront and rebuke anyone who offends us. Now, if you watch the comments section underneath the videos on my channel, one of the things that happens is occasionally someone will confront me on something. And the first thing I say is, I respect your beliefs. Right? Yoda says, named must your fears be, before banished you can. So someone comes to me, they're in a fear. I'm going to naturally think they're in a fear. I am not going to allow myself to drop into the state of fear in response. So what Luke says here is confront it. So in other words, instead of letting it come to you and washing with it and working with what's coming to you and reacting to what's coming to you, you stop it from moving forward by flat out standing in front of it. I told a story the other day in a video about in my live stream, about working at the Tennessee Renaissance Festival and having 2 people screaming at each other. One of them my boss, one of them my employee who was underneath me. I was the middleman. And by figuring out what their fear was, I confronted their fears directly. One was afraid of the IRS and the other one was afraid of not getting paid. And so I basically solved both those problems. When I did my corporate work and someone would come on stage, as they came on stage, I was very aware of their fear. Their fear was that they were afraid of being in front of the people, right? But when they confronted those fears, when I confronted those fears, I was able to get them past those fears and onto something new. So when it says in Luke, confront and rebuke, the word rebuke is where I would be I would question it, because the word rebuke in itself seems like it might be aggressive, but I would say rebuke meaning counter. So, for instance, when I was doing corporate work and I was teaching someone how to crack a whip for the first time, they learned how to crack a whip and hit a target out of my hand in under 5 minutes. But their biggest fear was hitting me, right? I'm holding a target in my hand and their big fear was hitting me. And what did I say to them? I said, I promise you're not going to hurt me, because I knew their number one fear was hurting me. So they were afraid, and I confronted it with the negation of their fear, the negation of that reaction. So 9 times out of 10, and I'm going to say 100 times out of 100 actually, when someone's coming to you and they are mad, sad, frustrated, angry, any of the negative states, that is a fear. That is a fear that needs to be confronted if you want it to change. But if you want to feed that fear, you're just going to let that fear grow and going to be reactive to it. So your forgiveness is implied. Your forgiveness is already there because you forgive it. You give them the blessing or the permission. Give yourself permission to not be reactive to it. You are forgiving the forgiveness ahead of time, right? So you forgive, but then you also have to confront it. How do you confront it? You confront it by then not allowing it to affect you. That's first the confrontation. The second thing is the actual element of then negating the fear. And you do that by first labeling the fear and then, moving through it. So the whole point of this thing here is a couple things that I want to say. If you read the Bible like it's infallible, it'll drive you crazy, because there's too much in it that is contradictory all the way through. Same thing with the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vakanamrut, the writings of Buddha, the Tao Te Ching. You can find contradictions in all of them, because every piece of information that you're reading in any of these ancient texts was filtered through the mind of man, was filtered through the mind of people translating this information and trying to wrap sense around it. So realize that when you're reading the Bible, read the things that mean love to you as coming from God, and the things that are coming from fear, take that as just not of God, or not coming from the source, because God is love. Now, it does say that in the Bible. God says that in the Bible. And then in the book of John it says, no fear can exist in perfect love, and perfect love is God. So if you are expressing that perfect love, then the fear-based things don't affect you. They don't bother you. It's like, okay, that's what they are doing, not what you are doing. And you want to make sure that you are staying in the place of forgiveness, F-O-R-E. You're giving it beforehand. You're not becoming offended originally. You're taking that forgiveness as just your baseline. I am forgiving. Now you may not like what they do. You don't have to like what they do. But that doesn't mean you have to be reactive to what they do and give what they do power by coming back at it hard. And what the word confrontation would really mean, I say confrontation is a little different, because that motion that they're putting out there is rolling forward, right? And when you get mad and frustrated, it empowers it and keeps it rolling forward. To truly confront it, you have to negate it. And I just don't give it power. There was a time I was at a Renaissance festival, and one guy was very mad at me because he thought that I had screwed him over on his time slots on stages and all kinds of things. And he was right up in my face with his finger pointed at my nose, and he was saying me and my mother did terrible things together. It was horrible. And I stood there, and I forgave him because I understood he was upset because he was afraid of his loss of money. He was afraid of his loss of money. So I just stood there, and I let him vent. And I did not confront, I did not get mad, I did not raise my voice, but I also did not back down. I confronted it without amplifying it. I confronted it by not giving it the energy that was coming at me. And then I said, Jerry, I'm sorry you think this, but wasn't my intention. What do you think is the best solution for this? How do we solve it? Because the reality of it was, this was so extremely important to him. He was so very mad. He wasn't thinking about solutions. He also wasn't thinking about, what would have been a better situation for him. He was just being mad. And by shifting him out of being mad and being someone who was working with him and not trying to fight him and amplifying his anger, and what happened was he walked away frustrated, and 10 minutes later he walked up and apologized to me. But I didn't have a fight with him. I didn't get into a fist fight. I didn't get knocked down, drag out. I didn't even raise my voice. Didn't need to. Because by standing there and confronting it with love, rather than with confronting it with anger or being reactive to it, then I didn't empower it. And what did that do? It made him feel like an ass, really. And that's the point of this, in my opinion. But when I look at your all the quotes of the Bible that you've listed here, the majority of what you've listed here is all about forgiveness. And then you listed one that was about confront and rebuke. That would be the one that I would go, yeah, you can make sense of it, but it doesn't feel right to me. If it doesn't feel right to you, then don't follow it. Because for you, personally, it's not a loving response. And if that's the case, then you should not follow it because it is not loving. Now, I can look at this and I can come up with the answer that I would feel right to me, but that's not to say I'm right or anybody's right. It really comes down to what you feel is right. Spirituality is a personal journey. That's what my mother told me, and that's what I follow. I allow everyone to follow their own journey. And the confront and rebuke can be pretty aggressive if someone's coming at you with a different belief and you're confronting and rebuking their beliefs, which, trust me, as someone who has a story where he remembers walking with Jeshua in a past life, I get confronted and rebuked a lot. And it's okay. I understand that I challenge their beliefs. I understand that I make them afraid that they might be wrong. I understand that their power is in the fact that they must be right. And so I forgive it. I understand where they're coming from. And that's where my forgiveness comes. I give it beforehand. So that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Boy, I love this lighting. See ya. Bye. Thank you, my friends, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure that you've subscribed and you like it, you share it, but also comment below it. Let's get this community talking about these topics and spreading this information out far and wide so we can change the world for the better. Thank you.